Please take a minute and look around. See who your community is tonight. Thanks so much for the people online. We have a good community online too. So tonight, excuse me, I wanted to share a letter that came from another Sangha in Minneapolis, Minnesota, which is a difficult place to live right now. And this is from Mark Nunberg from Common Ground Meditation there. He's visited here before, and he often speaks at Southern Dharma every year. So Mark wrote, "Things are not okay now, and right now it's like this. Let's keep remembering that it makes a difference whenever we meet the moment with a wise, tender, and a stable presence. Sincere practice provides for us the confidence that how we show up matters. Sincere practice is how we transform our hearts and how we support healing inside us and around us." And so tonight, I wanted to share that. I printed the whole letter out and put it in the foyer if you want to read it. And it leads me to want to talk about using the Dharma teachings and silence as our medicine right now to help us know how to be and what to do. Things are challenging, and folks that I'm talking with are having very normal responses to some abnormal situations. Pardon me. It's not our regular life to have so much stress every day, and it feels odd. Symptoms can show up as weariness or numbness, disbelief, sadness, anger. You can make your own list pretty easily, I'm sure. And all of these are perfectly appropriate responses, physical and emotional responses to witnessing ongoing and sometimes disturbing situations. When we try to carry on as if things are quote unquote normal, while our neighbors might be afraid to leave their home to go to work, it produces a specific kind of anxiety for us. And so these psychological effects of living with prolonged anxiety are many. As mammals, we're built to navigate short bursts of anxiety with ease. But we're not built to sustain prolonged anxiety, and so we have to find ways to release stress and enhance our sense of well-being and safety. And one way to do that is to gather like we are tonight, to sit in silence together peacefully with people that we trust. Usually pretty good people show up to meditation. So you can kind of look around the room and know that you can trust most of the people that are here. A simple fact is that prolonged psychological stress makes it hard to rest and digest. So if you're having issues sleeping or digesting food, it might be connected to political unrest. Both of these things are important for carrying on in life, and so that brings us to the topic. How do we use the Dharma as cognitive therapy and silence as medicine? And you may already be doing this because you showed up tonight, so you know on some level this does bring some ease. So I'm bringing this so we can address some static, any collective unease And maybe at the end of the evening, we'll remember to engage with some tools that I'll suggest to take care of ourselves really well right now and learn ways to take care of the people around us. The paradox, when we work both on a psychological level and on a spiritual level, which to me that's what meditation is about, is that we have to acknowledge that even though things are messed up right now and they don't seem to be going in a good way, that in the vast, huge, infinite spiritual view, things are okay on some level and will be okay. And will continue to change and change and change again. This moment, these moments that we're living through now are specks on the timeline of world history, and we just happen to have a front row seat to this particular show. When we add positive energy and skillful actions and stay involved and take care of each other, it can only help move things in a better direction. And it can be one of the positive outcomes of a really challenging time, is we can actually grow closer to one another now through this. So let's talk about a psychological term that I had a firsthand experience with recently, and it's cognitive dissonance. First of all, what is that? And second of all, how do we see it and navigate it? So obviously, cognitive has to do with thinking, cognition, and how, and that's always the key word, how we process things. And the second part of the phrase is dissonance, which is described as the lack of harmony in musical terms. And similarly, in the human mind, dissonance is a form of tension that results from the combination of inappropriate elements or thoughts or actions that we can't reconcile, make sense of. And this all comes from the Latin root dissonere, which surprisingly, or not surprisingly, is the root word for disagreement. So simply put, cognitive dissonance is the discomfort that happens when our beliefs or desires conflict with what is happening, or possibly what we have done ourselves or have not done. So the recent example that kind of set me on this path was I was making dinner, and outside the sun was going down, and we have big windows, and a really beautiful twilight was in the room, and I had a fire in the fireplace that I can see from the kitchen, and I was listening to vintage jazz and chopping celery. So I was in a pretty happy place. I felt safe and content, sort of cradled by that moment. It was just kind of exquisite. And I remember thinking, ooh, let this moment last, you know? It felt so sweet. A few minutes later, I was just happy-ish. Nibbana was fading fast. I thought, where did my bliss bubble go? Like, what changed? My external circumstances were pretty much the same, but my internal weather had shifted. I couldn't quite put my finger on it. Something was not congruent, and I put the knife down. I stepped away from the kitchen and closed my eyes, and I could feel this undercurrent. I could feel that parts of me were angry and worried. Parts that needed to be seen and heard, and I even felt tears in my eyes, and I got curious and guilt about being so happy, so content, so safe, with healthy food washed through me. Sadness washed through me. I sat down and began to trace this back and remember disturbing details from the news that day, and the serenity that had been so full and present only moments before was completely evaporated. So when news that I find shocking is coloring my days, it's tempting to kind of go with that guilt that comes up for being safe and happy and having enough food. Does that somehow help? Does that make me one of the good guys? No, it actually doesn't. Most of us have many blessings in the midst of all this suffering and turmoil in our world. And so finding the ways to stay healthy and give back on every level is really, really important right now. This can be felt palpably. This is cognitive dissonance, when my values somehow are not lining up with what is going on in the world, and I feel I should be doing something about it. It feels like static in the body. I know it's important to see it and feel it, not push it away, connect with myself first, and then connect with a friend, just share it. I've heard that other people have experienced this too. So this is just one example, and this was mild cognitive dissonance. This can be very, very big and disturbing. Yours may not look like this, or you may not be experiencing this, but, and also to be clear, I'm not a mental health professional. I'm just very interested in my own mental hygiene, because it, can get really dark in your head really fast. And what we're studying is mind training from the Buddha Dharma. And so this can be our medicine, this mind training. When I have these feelings that are incompatible, I simply realize that I'm still learning how to hold great suffering, to see it clearly, to not turn away. So this is not easy work, and this is all work that we can be doing now, our own suffering as well as the suffering of others. So what do we do with this? First of all, we might want to look at unconscious ways that we try to alleviate our dis-ease with cognitive static, and that is we can try to ignore it. It doesn't work very well. We can distract ourselves in our usual favorite ways. We can rationalize our action, our lack of action, over and over until our memory of the situation is even altered to better suit what we want to remember. But this is called denial. So that's not healthy. If we leave this unnoticed or misunderstood, this cognitive static can change us into a confused or even a delusional or an angry human. So how do we connect this with Dhamma? First of all, the Buddha instructed us to routinely seek out silence and stillness as our medicines, just like we did tonight. Just to sit with this stuff, feel it, see it, let it move through us. Second of all, the teachings that we engage with are specifically designed to reduce suffering through mind and heart training. Third of all, the Dhamma advises recognition of all mind states without judgment, including contracted, angry, troublesome states, feeling that in the body so we can quickly recognize it, not get swept away, and gives us specific roadmaps for ways to learn new pathways and behaviors. So we're doing that, and we've been doing that for 15 years. So hopefully the Dhamma is being a comfort to us in some way. Is life still painful? Yes, it is. The first noble truth is that suffering is simply a part of the equation. Inside of ourselves and outside of ourselves, the wild ride continues until it doesn't. So we're wise to cultivate this willingness to look at this, feel it, understand it, and develop a courageous relationship with it. We use courage as our flashlight and the suttas as our map and our toolkit to better be able to see and hold this truth both in our silent explorations on the cushion and particularly off the cushion as we move through the world and interact with people. So this helps us make room for everything and to make sure that we're able to stop and pay attention to what we're feeling, especially if it feels like something's not quite right. We can look at the causes and conditions and better understand it and maybe calm down a little bit. Given all that's happening now, the only sane response is compassion for self, compassion for the full catastrophe of all of our lives now, and possibly some skillful actions in the community. So, according to Martin Luther King, love is not passive or sentimental. Love is a way of living that shapes how we meet conflict, injustice, and one another. Hate, on the other hand, is a cancer that gnaws away at the vital center of your life. He said, I choose love. So consider your daily silence as medicine, as love, to keep you on track. Consider using the Brahma Viharas. We work with them a lot. We practice metta meditation. Every time we come together, we speak about compassion all the time. It might be hard to find joy, but it might be more important than ever to find joy anywhere you can right now. And also to develop the cool heart of equanimity. We don't stop caring, but we're a little more calm and in our boots right now. On your chair, you have the Brahma Viharas. There's more copies at the front. You might want to pass some to the back. And they're online, in the resources online, so you can pull them up there. And I'm also recommending tonight the 10 perfections of character. The ways that we remember to be good people are called the paramis, the perfections. And the Buddha called these noble qualities of character. And these are on the seats and they'll be on the website soon. I don't think they're there yet. In the Theravada teachings, the paramis are the joy of giving without attachment, living in harmony with others, letting go for the sake of peace, seeing clearly, showing up with courage, staying steady through constant change, living from what's real, aligning our intentions and our actions. And the last two are part of the Brahma Viharas, the boundless heart of metta and the balance of equanimity when we're in the middle of life's storms. So it's really easy to have a hard heart, to be angry, to be reactionary, to operate from a place of woundedness or fear. And these are all forms of ignorance. And it doesn't produce a good effect to operate from here. It doesn't evoke a good outcome. It's not skillful. It's far more noble to be able to study the suffering around you and to begin to alleviate it in yourself and in others, to take a tender and curious heart into the silence of your daily practice. Meet these moments with well-wishing and compassion. Keep one of these lists or both of these lists where you can look at them just to remind yourself, this is the way. This is the way to peace. This practice strikes at the root of all the detrimental actions, reducing instead of perpetuating the spread of ignorance and harm. So I'm going to close tonight with a quick note on fear. I like the acronym false evidence appearing real. While it's true that we have a hard time determining which evidence is real and which evidence is false these days, We do know from science that fear drives us deeper into restrictive, painful sort of ego behavior, ego states, and away from an expansive, liberating experience of our highest good. So the Dharma, including these 10 perfections and the divine abodes, take us towards our true nature in the other direction. One of the wise Dharma teachers that we have access to is Philip Moffitt, and he says we should never try to force an issue. Just acknowledge, accept, and keep learning about it. And as things begin to unfold naturally, we'll know when and how to respond appropriately. And his shorthand for this is arrive, allow, and align. So being present with wisdom and compassion. The Buddha says, whatever you intend and whatever you plan, whatever you have a tendency toward, that will become the basis on which your mind is established. So I hope that we can go in that direction, make it a habit. May we all use the Dhamma as cognitive therapy and silence as our medicine. Thanks for your ears tonight.